Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Water Online Show. My name is Angela Godwin, and I'm your host, coming to you today from AWWA's ACE Convention in Denver, Colorado. My guest this morning is Rick Bacon. He is CEO of AMS. Rick, thank you for joining me today.
Delighted to be here.
Always love catching up with you at these events. And, I think people are very well aware that transformative innovation is all what AMS is all about, right? I mean, that is really at the heart of it. SafeGuard H2O, right? This technology, I mean, this has been redefining water treatment for quite a long time now, providing facilities like cost-effective and reliable ways just generate specialty reagents on site. So talk a little bit about this technology. Why is it so unique, and what's it doing out there?
Right. The two advanced reagents, they're the most powerful, sorry to go into the chemistry, powerful reducing agent, or so more powerful than ferric, or an oxidizing agent more powerful than ozone. So most powerful oxidizing agent, most powerful reducing agent. The problem is that they have a shelf life very, very limited. So you can't make it in a big factory and ship it somewhere. You have to make it on site. So the chemistry of all of this has been discovered, documented, always done in a laboratory. And the documentation, research papers always end up by saying, great in the lab, but impossible to use because you can't produce industrial quantities. That's what we've succeeded in doing.
Wow.
So now anyone, anywhere can make this chemistry on site. It's very simple. I would say it's low-tech, high-tech technology, or high-tech, low-tech, whichever the right way around. Produce as much as they want, when they want. We're just following the chemistry that's been well documented, and it's transformative in terms of being able to attack contaminants that hitherto it's not been, there's been no solution.
That's amazing. What an incredible development in our industry, right?
Yeah.
That's terrific. So given the broad reach of SafeGuard H2O, are there like specific markets and contaminants that you're targeting? Where do you see maybe the most traction?
So it's a really good question. My shareholders are saying, what are you going to focus on? And it's quite challenging because some of these contaminants are more difficult. Some of them are easy to handle. So a very accessible one is chrome treatment in California. We went from patenting the technology in 2018 to now best available technology for treating hexavalent chrome. It actually removes it to non-detect. Nothing else can do that. There are 500 sites in California that need treatment. And we've shown time after time that we're 40% cheaper, lifetime costs, than the alternate technologies which have been around forever, and everyone's trying to shoehorn in as a solution. So that's hexavalent chrome. We've done work with PFAS, microplastics, some of the more difficult contaminants like azoles in semiconductor plant. The ferrate is an incredibly powerful oxidizing agent. And what we've got to do is develop the application, because every application is different, and how it's actually applied is different. But the fundamental chemistry is there. And it's a bit like, which one do we go after first?
Right.
And there's a lot out there, and we've just got to be very focused on a few to start with.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I noticed you did mention PFAS, so let's dive into that a little bit. Now, obviously, regulatory pressure is increasing quite a bit by the day, it seems. Right. So how is AMS really positioning itself to help, utilities with response?
So the challenge with PFAS is the treatment technology, let's say a removal technology, can cost you $1 million of capital. The ratio of the operating cost of that is 4 to 1. So $4 million a year to operate, $1 million to build it. The problem at the end of it is, having captured PFAS in this sort of very concentrated lettuce soup, is you've got to deal with this horrible now toxic waste. And traditional technologies, the ones around, is about 20 million. So those are the sort of ratios. And we're tackling that bit. What do you do with the PFAS when they've been captured? And the couple of challenges there, and this is very much on the industrial side, because that's where all the long-term liability is going to be. Whether it's a sewage plant or the landfill leachate, they're very worried about where's the PFAS ending up.
Sure.
So we're working that space. And one of the other challenges is the quality of lab testing. So, and we've discovered that actually, although there's theoretically a method, every for-profit laboratory employs slightly different result. So you can get very different results from two laboratories. And so we're working very closely with one of the leading instrumentation companies and a couple of laboratories who take this seriously to actually develop appropriate method, which means that when we do produce results, we can trust them.
Sure.
And we didn't expect that when we got into PFAS, but there's a lot of stuff out there making claims that I wonder whether really the laboratory analytical method supports those claims. That's what worries me, and we want to make sure we do a good job on that end of things.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic because, as you said, I mean, if you're not all kind of measuring to a particular benchmark, how do you really know?
Yeah. And that's why you get the variability from different sources.
Yeah. So, Rick, I've heard over the years people refer to AMS as kind of the Swiss Army knife of water technology, water treatment. So, what does that mean to you in sort of the context of how your technology applies to such a diverse range of technology?
Well, I'm glad the message is getting out there, right? Because people say, well, why don't you just focus on one thing? Well, there wouldn't have been. Well, and there wouldn't have been a Swiss Army knife if someone said all we need is a blade or a screwdriver, right?
Fair point.
So we began with analytics, and we're market leaders in that and the way we go about it. And that business is evolving now to where we operate a subscription model. And then we've got the treatment, which we moved into because our analytics gave us like insider trader information on Wall Street as to how the legacy technologies, ferric, ion exchange, were not meeting requirements. Right. So we've moved into that, and that's why we've got a Swiss Army knife. And the two things integrate very nicely because I think of the analytics as a brain, and it's sitting on our very clever muscle for removing the contaminants. So that's how it's a Swiss Army knife. You get the Swiss Army knife with all these things joined together, and you get a very good product as a result of that because you know it's going to work.
That's
and
great.
It's going to tell you it's working. So that's how it.
That's such a good analogy. I love that.
That's
that's
best
wonderful.
I could think of at the time.
All right. So before I let you go, Rick, what is next? What can we expect from AMS?
Okay, so we've got strategic, I started to touch on it, which is that we're going to move to a subscription model for our analytics. We've been doing this stuff for so long. We know that we have uptime more than 99%, so we can meet tough service level agreements. So we're moving aggressively that on the analytics side. And then on the treatment side, it's more tactical, because the problem with these chemicals is they're very short life. And so it means that we would actually have to put a reagent generator, chemical generator, in every site that wants to try it. We don't have time, we're very impatient, and we don't have the resources to scatter that all around the world. But we've discovered, tactically, we can freeze ferrate.
Wow.
And then ship it around the world to anyone who's interested in the chemistry. And they can find out what, different applications, they can evaluate it, they can run their own laboratory analysis. And that way we'll get much, much faster uptake. So we're breaking the barrier to adoption, which is tactical, but it's also very strategic, I think, in terms of transforming the way we go about this stuff.
That is so exciting, Rick. How wonderful.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Well, I can't wait to catch up with you next year and see how everything's going.
Yeah, I'll be back.
In the meantime, though, we do appreciate you coming on the program.
Yeah,
it's always lovely to catch up with you, and wish you all the best of luck.
Thank you so much.
Forward.
Thank you.
And thanks to all of you for joining in. This has been the Water Online Show. My name is Angela Godwin.